Hey, this is some guy named Chris. Today on this episode, we have a special guest. We have Tim Dimsdale from InsightWorks. And what we're going to do today is go through some Power Automate with Business Central interactions. And we're glad to have him. He's taken time out of his busy day, to work with us. So let's invite him in, and you've seen him on the screen probably, but let's talk to him and see what Tim does, what InsightWorks does, and how the interaction between Power Automate and Business Central works for them and how they're using it. And we'll ask some questions along the way. If you do have questions outside of what I ask, please put them in the comments below, and I can get with Tim and we can go through and set up a meeting and work with them to figure out what can we improve, how can we get things out to you guys. So welcome, Tim.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. So a little bit about us. So InsightWorks, we're based in Canada. We've got decades of experience in manufacturing, distribution, and just software development in general. And we mostly focus on the Business Central ecosystem for Microsoft. So our primary apps are all within Business Central, and that's really our area of expertise. I've been with the company for quite a long time now, shortly after they founded it. And my role at this point is mostly on the solutions architect side. So I will help design some of the apps. I'll help implement them, some of the more complex ones. But at this point, it's mostly kind of a design space and things like that. And then I get to do things like this occasionally, which is kind of fun.
Now, what range your apps do they range? Is it, you said manufacturing, is it mainly manufacturing, or does it go a little bit more broad than that?
A little bit more broad than that, yes.
Okay.
So we've got apps that help with shipping. So Dynamic Ship is one of probably our most popular app, I think, at this point. I'm not a marketing guy, so I can't say for sure. And then most people probably know us for our main flagship product, which is Warehouse Insight, and that provides scanning capabilities for warehouse, so things like picking and putting and inventory counts and things like that. And with the scan guns, with the industrial scanners, and those are the apps we're mostly known for.
Nice.
The app that I'm going to be talking about today is Quality Inspector, which we've had for quite a while. So it used to be part of, we have a larger app called Shopfloor Insight, which collects time, metrics, things like that, and records time for production, output, consumption, things like that. And we've had a feature in it for a while for recording quality control. And a few years ago, we decided to take that and make it its own separate app. And so it still does what it's done for years, but now it can just be kind of installed separately without the larger application as part of it.
Nice. Now, and I'm curious, just before we even get started, because one of the reasons we're here is Power Automate with this quality control app. What did you use before for the automation, before you used Power Automate?
Well, we would just use mostly point-to-point for kind of system integration, right? And then inside of Business Central itself, we would have system-to-system integration inside of that for things like integrating in with other apps or bringing in data from other apps. What really changed was Microsoft pushed Business Central to be primarily a SaaS solution starting several years ago. And when they did that, all of a sudden SaaS changed everything, right? So there was no longer the simplicity of doing, very simple systems. And SaaS enabled a lot of things like microservices or cross-system communication that really wasn't possible before. And Power Automate is a great example of that, right? So Power Automate, it makes system-to-system communication so simple, right? And that's probably one of the easier examples, right, is like things with quality inspections. Quality inspection test is finished. Now what? Well, usually there's some kind of notification to the external world, or you've got to tell some external system or things like that, or even the reverse, right? So you're bringing in measurement data from something, and you just need it inside of your quality inspection system. So yeah, Power Automate is quite an enabler along with the Microsoft SaaS system for Business Central.
Yeah, especially with the connector out there.
Oh
Now,
yeah, yeah.
without the connector, I mean, you can still do the HTTP calls, but that connector gives that freedom to do it much more quickly and easily.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you want to give us a show or show us what you're
Yeah,
doing and how you're using it?
yeah, absolutely. Um, so maybe I'll start off with the Business Central side, if that's okay, and then I'll switch over to the Power Automate side. Um,
Absolutely.
but just to give an idea of where we're going, what we're going to be doing is basically just when a test has been finished inside of Business Central, which we'll go through on our side, where you're going to create a report of that. So, things like a certificate of analysis or just a general inspection report, things like that. And we're going to put it on OneDrive, create a shareable link, and then put that shareable link inside of a Teams message. So that's going to be the general idea of what we're going to be doing. Um, Quality inspections in general. So this is all embedded inside of the Business Central app. So this looks exactly like Business Central. And inside of it, really, I've got some demonstration data available. But we have our quality inspections just as a normal document, right? So things like measuring values for a system, or if you were doing things like measuring or doing like a corrective action report, you could do that as well. And a quality inspection document really at the end of the day is just collecting a bunch of measurements or checklist values, recording them, having a pass or fail, having all of that roll up, and use that for things, like first article inspection reports or final process reports, um, or even like incoming goods, right? So as you're receiving the product, doing an inspection on that before you actually use it for consumption in your production processes. Um, so we're going to be, I'll probably just pick one of these easier examples here. So one thing that we can also do is as you're doing your quality inspections, you can do samples, right? So I'm maybe sampling 2 out of a large number of values, or maybe you're receiving a lot of 1,000 and you're doing some kind of AQL on top of that. In our case, or in our example here, we're just going to be uh, measuring a few different values inside of that, right? So we're just going to have a generic measurement. All of these pass, and then this all rolls up into kind of like a summary line itself for that, right? Now, the idea here is you would have things like an AQL measurement kind of predefined, and you could say, well, I'm maybe receiving 1,000. I'm only going to check, 100 out of that, and then statistically, the result of that is going to determine a pass or fail of the lot, right? So we'll just do that. So we'll fill in a couple of these values. And we're using the main Business Central interface for this. But what you can also do is you can use this on like a phone or a tablet, or even an industrial device as well, right? So earlier we mentioned Warehouse Insight, right? So it's an app that runs on those industrial scanners
Okay.
that are picking and putting out on the floor, and we've got an interface for that as well. Or again, going back to our shop floor product, there's also an ability to record quality inspections for things like in-process inspections or in production inspections as you're kind of going. But of course, you can do it inside of Business Central directly as well. So in our case here, we've just recorded some values. They're all recorded as a fail. And right now, that's kind of our test state, right? So we have a test that's got a few measurements on it. And that's basically it. Now, one of the processes we're going to automate is kind of the next step, right? So once you've got that test and you're about to finish it, What you would do is you would then do something like an inspection report or a certificate of analysis, and then that can kind of go along with the product, right? Um, so maybe I'll just make these all actually pass values here for a moment. All right. Okay. So now we're going to be passing the value, and then we're going to have our certificate of analysis, and it'll basically be like this PDF that you can use. And the idea here is you'd use it to send to somewhere, right? So it would either get attached to the product or get sent off with the product to wherever it's going downstream. And what we're going to do with Power Automate is kind of automate that, right? Or even just automate the notification, right? So a really simple use case could be, like a make to order scenario, and there's a key principal or a key salesperson that is basically waiting for that for a very important customer and needs to know the moment that it's passed inspection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what we would do is just navigate over to our Power Automate side. So the very first thing we're going to do is use this block from Business Central for when a business event occurs, right? And this is a feature they introduced around 3 years ago, the business events, and it's been quite an enabler because they had some built-in events before for things like when a record has changed and things like that. And the business events allow a lot more context, like a lot more data that can be passed through, and it's pretty exciting in terms of what they've been doing there. They haven't introduced a lot of events, which is a little interesting, but I think we're going to see a little more kind of come their way.
Yeah, and we've done some other things on, some guy named Chris, where another system called ConnectWise.
Right.
You can, in the past, you had to pull the data yourself but then all of a sudden, like you said, the events, also known, some things are called like callbacks or webhooks. Like,
Yeah.
it made it very easy because it sends the data right away.
Exactly.
And then having that action immediate, like, yeah, you don't have to wait. So that's when they put those in. That was a really nice feature for Business Central.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's in terms of system to system communication, it makes it a lot easier to implement, like especially scenarios like this.
Yeah.
Like it's changed what used to be custom code now just down to integration, right? And and in many cases, it's something that customers can do with not highly technical, but with some minimal technical experience. Now the event we're using in this case, so because we're doing that, so we can see all these different events that are possible inside of the system, and a lot of these are all just based off of the Microsoft one, right? So things like a customer's blocked, things like that, and the way they've built it is we can add in our own, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to hook it up to this quality inspection test has been finished, right? So it's in the past state. I might not be done recording my values, but now I am done recording my values. I'm going to finish it, and I want that to kind of trigger off everything. After that, we're now going to leverage this other relatively recent block, which is, recent to me. I think it's a couple of years old as well, but there's an ability to get an image, file or document from Business Central itself, right? And this is also really easy to hook into. So all we need to do is create another web service within Business Central, and we've got a few obviously out of the box here for PDFs. That allow you to make that PDF, right? So in this case, we're just going to use like the general inspection report for now, and we're calling back into Business Central to say, okay, make that PDF, right? And
in this case, it's making the PDF for you. It's not just grabbing a file that was already generated.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's no file that was pre-generated or anything like that. It's all real time, and it's functionally equivalent to running that same PDF that we're running in here, right? So if I were to do a preview and close, just how it's generated this, which is kind of on screen, it doesn't exist anywhere. It's exactly the same as what we're seeing inside of Power Automate, right? So it's just creating it. It exists, but it's not anywhere yet, right? But that leads into the next step, right? So next step, super simple. Obviously, we're just using a simple OneDrive block, and we're really just grabbing that stream from that previous block, um, sticking it right into that OneDrive for Business Central, and that's it, right? So I mean, like at this point, this is already pretty useful,
Yeah.
and you've already got files. This could be connected to anything from OneDrive itself. You could also set up things like notifications, or have that also trigger other automations. Um, but for this, what we're going to do is just kind of put that all in one, right? So once we have that, next step also pretty straightforward, right? So we're just going to create that shareable link, which again is just literally creating a link from that file that we just had. And once we
Now,
have that, then
wait,
notify.
if you go back to the create file, you have a concatenation there. And I'm just curious, if you
Yes.
hover over that, how do you ensure you don't get duplicates?
Well, in our case, well, in this example, what we would do is the inspection would probably be about the lot, right? So
Mhm.
it would
Okay.
include something like the test, the item, or the lot number. You could do things like unique identifications, but if you were to re-trigger it multiple times, you'd still probably want the file name to be somewhat representative of that lot, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's our example as well, right? So we're saying, yes, this is our test certification number, in this case, our test document number. Um, and then we're also grabbing in the item number inside of Business Central and the lot number. And we're just concatenating them together with dashes in that scenario.
Nice. Okay.
Yep.
And sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, 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 no. That was an astute observation.
Well, and one of the reasons I ask is I also, when you had one of the events was in the drop down,
Mhm.
when you reopen a Q, like a QC test,
Yes,
which means
yes,
obviously if you reopen it, you got to close it again. And if you
yes.
close it again, what problems have you seen? And if you do, obviously, if you have the different lot number, then that solves that problem. Because
Yep.
there are, uh, as you've done Power BI, or
Mhm.
sorry, Power Automate, you can go through and check the file already exists. You can add another number to it. There's a lot more that can, but if you can make it simple, it's better to go simple. And
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I wouldn't overcomplicate stuff like this for sure.
Yeah.
And an interesting thing as well, because this kind of leads off into a tangent of things like approvals, right? So, um, typically, a quality inspection test is not going to be reopened for anybody, right? Like once it's finished, that's kind of its final state. You could reopen it though, and that's typically controlled with functional permissions that are in a full version, and the functional permissions would mostly just be for things like, like a supervisor needs to reopen it because someone did it by accident, or
Mhm.
this is something else, right? That was triggering it. Um, more typical though would be if you had a test and you had to alter it, right? You would create a retest, right? And then that way you've actually got the documentation trail all the way through. So you'd say, yes, our first pass might have been wrong, right? It might have said a pass when it should have been a fail, or a fail when it should have been a pass. Um, and that could have been a result of things like, you know, uh, maybe our test didn't have the right technical specifications. Maybe the tool itself was wrong. Maybe the tool itself wasn't calibrated. Um, things like that. And you know, you could do it with different processes, but typically things like that would be things like retests. But
And if you do open it, I liked your idea. Like if someone does open it, well, maybe
mhm.
you need to go to get the manager approval for that or something, the direct,
Exactly.
whoever, the shop floor person, whatever it is. And I think Power Automate, again, that's where can be very, very valuable. I know one of the things I've always pushed, it's really hard to get people to use, is the adaptive cards in Power.
Yes.
And that go
Yes.
into your email and all of a sudden you hit yes or no. Like
Yep.
you can select something, you can add more information, but that type of approval tracks it. It's easy and it's simple to set up. It's
Yep.
simple to prove. And that's the idea of these automations is make it simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea for you. You should do that. Is include that and then just have that set up inside of yeah, you're right. Good idea, Chris.
That it's crazy when I come up like there are these videos. I always say like, hey, I need a reason. Like you can't
Yes.
just do a video to do a video. You need a reason. And I've done a couple where it's like, oh, why don't I just do like, can I do this? It's really like, can I do it? Did it work? Yeah, like okay, let's do a video.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like adaptive cards was one that's fun because what's funny is when you get to adaptive cards, there's three ways of building the adaptive cards. All Microsoft, three
Right.
different websites you can do and pull out the JSON and all that. And there's some nuances, but when you get to those approvals and it's like, where do I get the list? Where do I get that? And so all of a sudden you're building on. It's like, let's keep it simple for now. Let's
Yeah.
just see, does it work?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of interesting too, right? Because it is fun to make some of these hypothetical scenarios for it. And really though, like in a lot of these cases in the real world, like these flows that I see are not that many blocks really at the end of the day, right? Like it's like some kind of trigger, some kind of simple decision making logic, and then some kind of output, right? Like that is where Power Automate kind of shines. Every now and then, though, you see really interesting stuff that people do.
I,
Uh,
I've had to go. I've done. I always try to prefer the simple, 100%.
yes, yeah,
I did one the other day, and it was using the other system that I do a lot of videos on, ConnectWise,
hmm
and the dates with an integration of another system wasn't coming. And I go, what can I do? And I go, okay.
yes,
And so I ended up writing myself an email with the steps I would do so that when I got in there, it wasn't like, oh, I'm in here. What's the next step? I
yes,
wrote it down. They always say citizen developers, low code, no code, but
hmm
it is, you have to have that very processed mindset doing these um, that
yeah,
goes through step by step because when you do some of these and all of a sudden you put a value in there and it says there's a loop all of a sudden around it, you're like, I only got one value. Well, no, you're pulling like here, like you're getting images. Maybe you got two images.
yeah,
And it's going to put a loop all the way around it. You're like, well, why did it do that? Like you have to specify. There's little things, and then it's like, okay, well now that I'm looping through, I have to check to make sure that that one, and you do a condition to make sure I only want the first one because
hmm
it says this in a field. Like so, what I
yeah.
usually do is try to plan it out ahead of time before getting in there, so that I'm
Right,
expecting what I'm getting. But yeah, I've done some that are pages and pages long. Um,
right.
and what's funny is they just put a change out there. It had to be within the last month or so that if you come to your project, if it's too long, they collapse your conditions. They collapse everything for you.
Oh,
And now I'm
okay,
having
yeah.
to expand and expand and expand. And there's ways to do it automatically, but yeah, the simpler the better. And the five or
I think I've
six,
noticed that. I wasn't quite sure what was triggering that. I've got a more
yeah.
complicated example that I usually share for, like uh, other presentations or like in front of the rooms or things like that. And yeah, it was exactly that. It just kind of collapsed, but I'm just like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, I get it because you can see, I look at it both ways. One, you
Mhm.
can see it a little easier
Right.
uh, and things like that. Other one, you then have to expand things. Now, one of the other things I've found, and so one of my questions for you is, what about air checking in here? What if
Ah,
it
yes.
can't find the file or something like that? Or it's not like you can't create the file because it's blank. There's nothing to generate.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. Um, well, in this particular example, this would be a little tricky to do because if the the event here in this
Mhm.
example is really just like when it's finished, right? So you can't finish a test unless the item
Yeah.
is there and the lot's there and all that. So you wouldn't necessarily have it.
But let's go with the post message. So if you click on your
Right.
post message again in the
Yeah,
chatter channel,
absolutely.
this is a very specific channel, but your
It is,
admin
yes.
could go and delete your channel.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're right.
So,
Yeah.
and so what I've found, and we've done this quite a few times now, is like you put the scope around it a little easier. So you can
hmm
put the scope around a few of the tasks. And in our case, we're sending emails to notify if they fail
Right.
and versus fail. And what's nice is that in the settings, you have that ability to select whether it's canceled, whether it's successful, failed, and I believe there's one other one,
Right.
like timed out or something. But those types of things really make it easy, and you're getting into that, I don't want to say true programming, where you're air checking and catching and try catch and all that stuff, but
No, it is that, right? Like
yeah,
the only difference is that it's visual, right?
correct.
Yeah, yeah.
So on this one, like, so obviously, and I know we did, like you said, sidetracked a little bit.
Hmm.
So once you get the file, you create the share link,
Right.
you are automatically then just posting it to the message. Um, and
Yeah, yeah.
so one of the questions I have, and I wrote this down for myself right away, is it's more, and you may not know the answer here.
Hmm.
Do you have to buy a license for Power Automate alongside the tool? I know Power Automate's somewhat integrated
Oh,
with Business
interesting.
Central,
Yeah,
but when you're hitting something that's non-Business Central,
yeah.
like, and I mean, technically these are all Microsoft with SharePoint, like creating a file and stuff, but
Yeah.
do you know if it requires a Power Automate like premium license?
I don't know the answer to that. No,
Okay.
no. I was in a conference earlier this year, and someone asked that question, and I'm trying to rack my brain on what the answer from them was. But no, I don't know the answer off the top of my head
Okay.
on how Microsoft licenses that.
Yeah, a lot of times.
It is a good question, though. Yes.
So if you click on create file, like the create file is a Microsoft, or it's
Yes.
a SharePoint run probably, isn't it? Or is it
Yeah.
a third party?
No, no. This one's for Microsoft. Everything,
Yeah.
all the blocks that we're using here are all for Microsoft.
Yeah, and that's a great thing because it's Microsoft loves Microsoft. You can do. I believe that without this, I'm guessing you probably do not need a Microsoft license, or sorry, a Power Automate Premium license. Uh, you'd have to, if you had Business Central, obviously the
Hmm.
user that's running this would need a Teams license, right? And they'd need
Hmm.
access to that channel and stuff like that. But that's independent. Um, but I think if you were to try to put this data someplace else,
Hmm.
let's say a different, uh, I'd say a Google Drive, right?
Right.
Yeah, you'd probably need some kind of premium license just because it's out there. And actually, my phone just started talking because I said Google. Um, but uh, it's interesting. 'Cause I'm wondering if I would be myself too. So I don't have an answer. So everyone watching, I
Yeah,
don't have
no,
an answer, but
yeah,
it's
I don't have an answer either. I'd be curious what it is. At one point in time, the Business Central connectors, I think, did require a premium license. They have altered the licensing a few
Mhm.
times, and luckily, I'm not in sales, so I don't
Yeah,
really have to care about that. Usually, at the point that I'm involved, it's all the licensing decisions and the numbers are all done at that point, and it's just a matter of doing the work.
I got you.
Uh, Thankfully, but yeah,
So
no, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know
so
the
when
answer
you
to that.
deploy this, like for your clients, when they hire you on and they download your tool and stuff like that,
Hmm.
obviously when it comes to Business Central, it's an extension. You can upload an
Yes.
extension very easy inside of Business Central.
Yep.
How do you deal with the Power Automate side?
So the Power Automate side is almost always specific, anyways. So
Okay.
in this particular example, it's pretty straightforward, and it's like it's a reasonable example that you'd see, but it's exactly that, right? Like it's an example. So things like the generation of the PDF or those events, those are all just part of the product, and they're there, right? So as soon as you connect your Business Central
Mhm.
connection to it, you've just got access to it, right? So there's no other extension to upload or anything like that to deal with that. The logic itself is almost always custom, right?
Okay.
So even if they're doing this same general pattern, realistically there's more to it than that, right? So it's like, well, do I want to notify Bob or Bill, right? Like sometimes there's shift stuff in there or other kinds of logic, or maybe it needs to go through an approval first before they even bother doing it. Um, yeah, and actually, I think approvals would be like a really good example of that, right? So it's like you're finished, and then it's like, oh well, are you?
Yeah.
And then that's where like the approvals and the sanity checks come in, and things like, okay, well, the test has been finished, and somebody else might be saying, okay, well, do we also have these engineering specs? And then they're checking something else on there, right? Or somebody else might be saying, well, yes, the test is finished, but do we have this other artifact that we have to go along with it, right? Or do we have the label printed or things like that? And all those would end up just being custom and deployed on them. Now, what's a little interesting is most of the time we actually don't sell direct to customers anyways. We help the resellers for our apps. So we're usually just talking through the resellers ultimately.
Okay. And actually, we just which one is it? The shop floor. I think we actually just worked with your team.
Okay.
And we're putting it in for one of our clients right now. So
nice.
Yeah, they just actually some of it. They went through training there a couple days ago, at least.
Oh, okay.
So some of it, which is great. So that's one of the reasons we're having your team reached out. Is like we're partners. So if anyone I say is listening, they do need some assistance. Obviously, InsightWorks is great. If they want to work for a partner, we can work through the partner. We can definitely help too, especially the Power Automate side. With what you've put in here, the simplicity of adding those triggers and stuff like that, and that's that's a time saver for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and in general, I think for things like this, like we prefer that the resellers would do it. I mean, obviously, we're here to help. We're here to provide guidance, or even just letting people be aware that things like this exist. And it's like, hey, by the way, did you know that there are events that you can just hook into on the Power Automate side, or that there's ways to get things like a PDF directly from Business Central.
And that's great, because I'm going to be honest, I haven't sat through the training and I didn't know that these existed. So when my team comes and says, hey, we need to trigger something off of InsightWorks, it's like, okay, well, let's look at Power Automate, because the events should be there.
Yeah.
Most events. I'm not saying every event's going to be there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we have any for shop floor. The answer might be maybe.
Okay, but even then, there's communicating with you, working with you, like
yes, yeah.
So maybe not, but we can always query, get in to pull the data. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's so simple to add event integration into Business Central these days, right? Like the external business event decorator that they added into the AL language a few versions ago, that it simplifies it hugely, right? So it's if you do end up with some kind of gap on the Business Central side, so it's like, like I need this on maybe the sales posting side and they don't quite have it, you can easily create like a little flyweight, that hooks into one integration event on the Business Central side, fires off your own external event, and then poof, all of a sudden it's in Power Automate, right? It's powerful stuff. It's pretty interesting to see what's going on out there.
Yeah. So what other variations, like use cases, like do you have or have you done with Power Automate and stuff?
Well, most of it that I've been involved in has actually been around quality inspections or quality inspection data, which is why we're using this as an example here. And it's usually for things like, something happened inside of Business Central and I've got to tell the outside world. So whether the outside world is, another system, right? So whether it's talking to like another, like warehousing system, if you're doing something like 3PL, or even if you're doing like coordinating tests to another system, or even just as simple as measurement data, right? So measurement data is something where I've seen done in a few different ways, right? So inside of Business Central, there's obviously several different ways of getting the data into the system. And I think it was a year or two ago. And we had a customer ask if they could do it through Power Automate. And the answer is like, well, yes, I guess we could. so we helped them go through the example. And it's just like, yeah, actually, this is really simple. And it was, I wonder if I still have that example handy here. But it was the same general idea, right? So it was almost the reverse of this, right? They had a file that was plopped into OneDrive, and we needed to parse that file. The parsing was super simple. It was just full of measurement data, and they just wanted us to populate the measurement data. And it was, almost the reverse, right? So we had the file, we put it in. We got a little lucky. We happened to have web services that had everything they needed, right? So just ready to go, right? And it made a great demo because we were just like, yeah, we could, right? And so we flipped it around, and then all of a sudden you could do it, and you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, we could. And that always goes back to the complexity question of uh, if you could, should you, right?
Hmm.
And what's that point where you take it out of Power Automate and put it into something else, right? And that's always an interesting conversation because it's never a simple answer, right? And if you can do something visual, and if you can have something like Power Automate that has uh, like something that's customer maintainable, something where you can see at a glance basically that workflow of that business process, why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah.
And usually the answers end up on licensing. um,
And we've run into that too. Like one of our clients, they were like, I want to do AI.
mhm,
It's okay. And then they look at the licensing and it's
yeah.
$500 a month, uh, annualized. Like they're like, yeah, it's maybe a little bit too much for what we're looking for. But then
Yeah.
the way I look at it, and I'm not a salesperson by any means, but I can sell. Like,
mhm,
how much time are you doing that manually?
yeah.
Oh, 5 hours a day. $500 a month is cheap. 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
Um, and it will read multiple files. Like so, we've done the same thing. Read through files. We if you have the consistency, like you
mhm,
said, if they're reading in it's the measurements and it's very, very consistent, well,
yeah.
yeah, the file can be parsed very easy.
Yeah.
If things move around because it's more like invoicing and it changes for somebody
Yeah.
and you're getting 5 or 6 different ones, well, you have to teach the system a little bit, look for this. And that's where the AI capabilities for AI Builder comes very, very valuable. And I mean, it's saving, they had 30 to 40, like I think they were shipping tickets that were
Right.
coming in a day. Well, now they just
Right.
read them in. It reads it automatically, puts it in, and like tracks it.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't have to do it manually. Um, Little things like that. Again, where you save time. It's not about getting rid of someone's job. It's not. It's saving time so you can work on something that's more valuable for the company.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that kind of brings up two different uh, thoughts, I think. So the first one is these are document intelligence capabilities that they've added, right? So they've got a super simple API that you can connect to all sorts of things, and you could do exactly that, right? Like you can feed it in, even a PDF, right? So like this
Mhm.
same PDF we just made, you can feed it into that, and you could say, hey, give me back a parsable document, and it's not like an LLM like ChatGPT or anything like that. It's machine learning based, but it can parse it fairly accurately. So
Yeah.
if you think about things like that kind of use case where it's like, okay, well, sometimes you can't escape the lack of system integration, right? So whether it's just, the place you're buying from just doesn't have it, or, there's whatever, like there's maybe your regulatory requirements or something like that, where the piece of paper is the thing, or it could just be an old school process, right? So, uh, paper-based counts as an example, like, we sell software that lets you do non-paper based counts, but paper-based counts still exist. So
Mhm.
when it's out there and they're putting it in, do you really want somebody to type in all that data? Not really. Does OCR do some of it? Kinda, but once you got the OCR, you still got to transpose it. But then you feed it into something like Azure Document Intelligence, and you could just punch in all of these paper-based counts, and poof, like all of a sudden you've got these documents you can immediately apply to things like Business Central, or if you want to keep things simple, just stick it into Excel. Um, I think that's my first thought. The other one though is I think on continuous process improvement, right? And I think that's really where Power Automate shines is
Mhm.
if people are constantly tweaking their processes for whatever reason, right? So either that's just part of the company nature to like always continuously improve, or something a little bit more straightforward, like maybe they're growing at a fast rate or shrinking, or they've got some kind of restructuring and their processes are just changing all the time, and you're on a project where the requirement you had 2 weeks ago is not the requirement you have now. This is a great spot for Power Automate, right? Because it can be like, okay, well, the fundamentals aren't changing, right? Like you're still doing your quality inspections in this example. You're still reporting that data to somewhere. So you've still got that main stuff in here. But if your processes are changing because, new person took over, or you're just always, trying to save, operational improvements or whatever that be, this is a really great spot for Power Automate, right? Because at this point now you can come in and, in a few minutes or in a generally a shorter amount of time, you can alter your process, right? Versus, paying for a customization to do that. So, if we're at an example of something like, okay, well, I've got data that's coming in, and should I be parsing it or not? A good criteria to that is like, well, how subject is this to change, right? Oh, it'll never change. Okay, well, I mean, like maybe you can save on licensing and choose something more specific. And I was like, well, we have to improve this, or we know we're going to get audited, or we're bringing in this this new supplier and they've got their own criteria, or we're selling to a new customer and like one of these giant big box stores and they've got specialty requirements, but we're not quite sure yet, or things like that. Then that's I think really where tools like this shine, right? Where it's it could be configurable by the customer or reseller, but the point is it's easy to get in and quickly change that to adapt, right?
Yeah. And I feel like anybody, and if Microsoft even touts like citizen developers, I said, like, people can get in and do it.
Yeah.
And that's where I always say, don't be afraid. Like, yeah, you don't, my background's SQL Server. I don't go and do an update statement the first thing. I go and do a select statement. If you're pulling data, if you're creating files, well, don't post it to a message until you know the file actually is accurate. The link is there, it makes sense. Then do it. Like, take your time. If you need to modify it, like you said, if you have a big file, like you have a process, modify it small parts at a time, make sure it works, and you can get it. Power Automate's, like you said, very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Hence the power.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else you'd want to show?
I think that's probably good. I think.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I mean, I love it. Seeing how other, vendors are doing things and where it can be used. Obviously, this is a very small example, but I'm sure you guys have it in other places that you're helping the clients. If they need something else, that's what Power Automate's for.
Yes.
You're making it simple. Like, even if it's, we talked earlier, even if you had to buy the license, it's $15 a month. For somebody to go and do this, okay, now I've done this, let me click the button, let me download it, let me get a link, let me share it. That's maybe 3 or 4 minutes. You're doing it 10 times a day, it's a half an hour. Like, you're making it simple. Like, take that, and once you buy the license, you can do any and all of these. It's not like, oh, it's per Power Automate flow. No, it's across the board. Now you can build out anything you want, move it anywhere. So I love it, and I appreciate it. Tim, like you and InsightWorks, I appreciate you guys taking the time talking with me. I had a very good conversation, so I'm saying let's do this again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you have other aspects that are tying into, like, we do anything Microsoft. So if you tie into AI Builder, you do start looking at that. You need some help on adaptive cards, let me know.
Okay.
Got some examples for you.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
But I appreciate your time, taking the time out of your busy day. And thank you everyone for watching. And everyone, have a great day.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thanks.